Hey everybody, this is David with Android Police, and as you can see, I have in my hand here the Huawei Mate 8, which is coming soon to select markets around the world. The Huawei Mate 8 is Huawei's latest mid to high-end large phone. I don't want to say flagship because it doesn't quite meet that bar by specifications alone, but it is very nice. The pricing in Western Europe, €599. It does have flagship pricing, but you've got things like a 1920 by 1080 panel, Huawei's Kirin chipset that maybe take it down a notch from the very nicest phones out there on the market. But it still is a very good phone with a brand new generation of fingerprint sensor. It's even faster than before, so it is very, very fast, and it seems to work very well. You've got a high-end camera on the back there. 32 gigabytes of storage on this version with 3 gigabytes of RAM. There will also be a 64 gigabyte version with 4 gigabytes of RAM. And of course, there's a micro SD slot for expansion. The battery is a very impressive 4,000 milliamp hours. You've got your Bluetooth 4.2, Wi-Fi with AC, USB 2.0. Huawei did not go with a Type-C port or USB 3.0, so it is a micro USB 2.0 port on this device, which may or may not be a good thing depending on who you ask. And basically everything else you would expect. It runs Android 6.0, so that's definitely a big plus. And as far as changes to Huawei's UI layer for Android 6.0, there are some. I don't have an older EM UI version in front of me, so I can't give you the real lowdown on what's brand new. But of course, you do get things in Marshmallow like Doze mode, which should negate the need for Huawei's formerly aggressive app background access system. Whereas Doze mode does operate somewhat similarly, but is optimized by Google to increase your battery life. So overall, my impression of the phone so far, it is very, very fast. No doubt about that at all. So everything loads up very quickly. Everything feels very smooth. You can see we got Google Maps here loading up. Well, we're on the LTE network, but it moves very smoothly. Not a lot of frame rate drops or anything. Gets back to that home screen quickly. I'm running the Google Now launcher on it because Huawei's launcher just isn't very good. It doesn't have an app drawer. And you can see it still forces these really, really cheesy icon backgrounds, even if you're not using Huawei's launcher on all your apps. It looks pretty amateur hour to me. The notification center is still this weird thing that kind of tries to copy iOS, where you've got the two panes, and you've got your shortcuts up here, and dismissing notifications can kind of be a pain in the butt. And there's still issues with things like the Gmail app, notification text and notification bar if you have a dark background. The text is dark and the background's dark, and so it becomes impossible to read. And this was an issue on EMUI for over a year now, I think, and they still haven't seen fit to address that. So the software this is running is pre-release, so there was an update out of the box when we got the phone. But beyond that, there have been some bugs, but it's to be expected for a phone that just came out. There's a persistent process running in the background here, logging information, basically saying you're a beta tester, so we're going to use you to optimize. It is, like I said, Android 6.0, EMUI 4.0. The model number for the phone is NXT-L29, which I assume is going to be the generic international version of the Mate 8. It does work on AT&T's LTE network here in the United States. It's currently connected to it. I did have some issues where the LTE network stopped working and the radio seemed to freeze up, but a reboot of the phone did correct that. As far as the camera, Cody did have a chance to play with it. We found the color representation, I don't know if it comes through in the camera here, quite pink. So I think Huawei still has some tuning left to do. I mean, yeah, you can definitely see there, well, I can see it at least, that the colors are being represented quite pinkishly. So there's some kind of strange pink shift going on. Maybe that's a problem with the sensor, maybe it's a pre-release hardware issue, I'm not sure. But more likely, I think it's just something the camera software, firmware rather, needs to be optimized to account for. Aside from that, the battery life we haven't really had a chance to test yet. Between Doze mode and being a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, I'm going to guess it's going to be pretty good. Huawei's saying 2 days of battery life, and on this, I'm inclined to believe them. The display is very bright. Right now, I've actually got it turned way down for the camera, but turned all the way up, it is impressive. And it is an LCD display, 1920 by 1080, like I said earlier. The processor powering this is the new Kirin 950, which is on a 16 nanometer process, so it's more efficient. and has a 2.3 gigahertz peak clock speed for the faster of the 8 cores, those 4 that are the high performance ones. I forget which ARM architecture they are exactly. As far as the rest of the phone goes, the one annoying thing for me that Huawei still does on these devices, and it's a total software thing, and you can go and fix it yourself app by app. But so notifications, apps by default do not have access to do banner notifications or to show notifications on the lock screen. I don't really understand why. When asked about it, Huawei generally points to, battery life, something like that. It doesn't really make sense. So every app you install, so like I say, like you can see, I installed Inbox by Gmail here. By default, it is only allowed to put icons in the status bar. It can't do banner text, and it can't display notifications on the lock screen. So you can turn that on, but for every app you download, you're going to have to go in there and do that. There's no way to mass approve apps for this behavior. So that's kind of annoying. It's not, a huge functional problem, but it's just one of those things that seems very arbitrary for Huawei to do with the device by default. Aside from that, we haven't had too much time with the phone so far. Like I said, it does work on AT&T's network here in the United States, so that's a good thing. Previously, it was kind of a hit or miss thing with international LTE phones here in America, at least on AT&T. It has dual SIMs, so you do have that going for you, and I'll probably do some dual SIM testing, I guess, to see how that works. And as far as Huawei software goes, like I said, we haven't had too much time to really dive in here yet. Fingerprint scanner, like I said, very fast. It seems to work very well. I like the positioning. And if you're wondering if this is basically a re-hardware skin Nexus 6P, I really don't think it is. It's a different camera. It's a different fingerprint sensor, I think. The chassis feels very different. The display is obviously larger, I believe, or no, it's 6 inches. So, the overall design just isn't quite as similar. So you've got the bottom firing speakers here. The way the panel versus the chassis kind of looks in general is pretty different. Different chipset, obviously that being probably the biggest differentiator technically. Different display that's not a Quad HD resolution, and then obviously Huawei's rather heavy EMUI software overlay. This phone is very powerful. It is very fast. It's very impressive generally. I'm going to have to spend some more time with it and wait for a full review in the coming weeks, and I'll let you know what I think of it after using it some more. So that is our initial impressions of the Huawei Mate 8.